Hey, you are watching the Ukraine on Fire project. And we start the new episode with an exclusive video of him meeting with the UN.
Good afternoon. Please sit down.
Obviously, Vladimir Putin does not trust the old man Gutierrez. Although everyone knows about the absolute harmlessness of both the Secretary General and the entire United Nations. However, the bunker gnome got out of the Ural bunker. Apparently, he decided to agree on something while sitting at the famous table. It's not even a table. On it, you can easily conduct exercises of the remnants of the Russian army. As the legendary commander Shugu likes to say, give me one parachute regiment and in 3 hours it will be gone. This time, the historical digression into the birth traumas of Russia and Vladimir began with Yugoslavia and the recognition of Kosovo. Pointing to this precedent, Putin said that Donetsk and Luhansk have the same right to self-determination. Of course, the great geopolitical chess player missed such facts that Russia once recognized the sovereignty of Ukraine and gave security guarantees in Budapest. And then, they also annexed Crimea, supported collaborators in the Donbass, and invaded Ukraine under the Russian flag.
И, наконец, вероломно и уже под российским флагом вторглась в Украину.
Guterres has seen a lot of crazy people in his life, so he briefly told Putin that all this was very interesting, but the UN did not recognize Kosovo. Vladimir did not expect such a cynical hook in the jaw. And then old Antonio would have to finish him off, reminding him of how the right to self-determination of Chechnya ended. But Antonio decided not to drop Vladimir on the table, and with relief they moved on to more pleasant topics, a humanitarian catastrophe and massacres in Mariupol. Of course, the Gutierrez tour is pure and unadulterated bullshit. The UN is a Mickey Mouse operation for high-ranking international officials. Legalized corruption feeder worth $40 billion a year. It is already clear that the powerless organization is living out its last days, and even the humanitarian corridor, which the chairman Gutierrez plans to break through from Mariupol, will not save it. So it is completely unclear why donor countries have been paying about $40 billion for the maintenance of the UN for decades. There is UNICEF and UNESCO, but I think they can manage on their own, and especially without the UN Security Council. For Putin, the UN and any international organizations except NATO are the sound of rain outside the window of an armored limousine. Why? Let me remind you of the famous conversation between Stalin and Churchill. The latter, in his usual eloquent manner, spoke about the new relations between the revived Poland and the Soviet Union. That Poland is a Catholic country, and that it is not necessary to complicate relations with the Vatican. To which Stalin replied, "Oh, the Pope, how many tank divisions does he have?" Some say that this was not a conversation with Churchill, but with the French foreign minister, or maybe it's just an anecdote. But in the USSR everyone heard it and admired the rudeness and brutality of Stalin's answer. Putin, on the other hand, has been trying all his life to be like the father of nations and has succeeded in many ways. But there is one but. Stalin, unlike Vladimir, was not a kleptocrat, led an ascetic life, and won his main war. Stalin built a great empire of evil. Putin builds palaces with hockey fields, strip, and blackjack. From the remnants of drywall from the palaces, they decided to build a model of the empire. And everything would be fine, but Vladimir began to collect lands and boldly throw pieces off the board. Not only Ukrainians, the EU and the USA with Japan were stunned by this trick. As a result of the cunning combinations of the great leader, Russia begins to delve into itself. The other day they blocked the world's largest online chess platform. This is the chess.com site. It turned out that the site administration condemns the attack on Ukraine. So in the coming years, all lovers of elegant chess openings can focus on dominoes. And by the way, it was chess that was the calling card of the evil empire and a symbol of its eternal intellectual superiority over the decaying West. Now Russia doesn't even have that.
и символом ее вечного интеллектуального превосходства над загнивающим Западом. Теперь России отказано даже
Why did Putin decide to meet with the UN Secretary General if there is no one to negotiate with and nothing to do? The fact is that Putin is lonely and has problems with his status. He was let down by the FSB, the generals and Emir of Chechnya Kadyrov. He was let down by conscripts and Skrodinger sailors from the cruiser Moskva. Russia let Putin down. He had a better opinion of her. So Vladimir met with Guterres to complain and show himself to viewers. He complained about the United States, which dared to transfer Mi-17 helicopters to Ukraine. Putin thinks it's illegal. After all, he planned to attack an absolutely unarmed country. And why is almost the whole world helping Ukraine, and not Russia? Although the answer to this question is obvious, Ukraine is being helped so as not to become the next Ukraine. And, as I told you in previous episodes, the world community has decided to dismantle the Russian Federation for parts. This is confirmed by the meeting of the leaders of 43 countries of the world at the US military base Ramstein in Germany. In fact, this is the Teheran Conference of 1943, where instead of the USSR, Britain and the United States met Ukraine in order to develop a strategy for defeating fascism. Not a strategy of defense and not a strategy for achieving an acceptable peace, but precisely the victory that will be achieved on the battlefield. For this, Boris Johnson and high-ranking US officials came to Kiev. They were the first to understand that Ukraine would survive. They were the first to understand that no peace treaty with Putin would guarantee the security of Ukraine. And it is true. Paradoxically, Ukraine today needs a peace treaty much less than the Russian Federation. Perhaps, for the first time in centuries, Ukraine received a historical chance for a complete revenge and the hope of getting either a normal neighbor in the east or an enemy incapable of attacking. The choice is for Russia. And I'm sure that in Ramstein the contours of the post-war world were outlined. A world where even a prosperous Russia will exist, but the remaining 21 republics and one stolen Crimea will most likely no longer be part of the Federation. I would especially think in the place of Dagestan and Buryatia. It was from these poor republics that a lot of soldiers came to Ukraine and died. The dead from Moscow and St. Petersburg are almost never found in the statistics, and yet these two cities make up 12% of the country's population. I'm not hinting at anything, but it seems to me that this is not an accident, but a state program to combat unemployment in Russia. And I would like to draw the attention of the Dagestanists that Kadyrov's soldiers had the main losses in the first days of the war, then they switched to TikTok and retained their combat capability for possible hostilities inside Russia. And what will you do when drunk soldiers from the Urals or the same Chechens start breaking into your houses? Do you dance Lazinka? To be honest, I thought Putin's response to the new Tehran would be more creative. For example, they could ban Ramstein songs. But no. Putin cannot jump out of the rut of historical parallels with Nazi Germany. Let me remind you that in the same year, 1943, Nazi propaganda came up with the term Wunderwaffe, a miracle weapon that will help win a protracted war. In Russia, too, there was such a term. We listen to Putin.
Let me emphasize once again, if someone intends to intervene in the ongoing events from the outside and create unacceptable strategic threats for Russia, they should know that our response will be lightning fast. We have all the tools for this, such that no one can boast now, but we will not boast. We will use them if needed.
Которыми не может сейчас похвастаться никто, а мы хвастаться не будем. Мы будем их использовать, если потребуется.
And I am publishing this video so that later the Russians would not say that Putin forced them. Here are the senators and deputies you have chosen. And this is how they meet the man who just a minute ago threatened the whole world with a nuclear attack.
Thank you, please. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your attention. All the best.
It all reminded me of the 17th Congress of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. It was held in Moscow in 1934 and was called the Congress of the Winners. But after a while it was called by the people the Congress of the Executed, because more than half of its delegates were shot on Stalin's orders. While you're puzzling over what kind of wonder weapon Russian industry might bring to light, I can talk about one example of Putin's Wunderwaffe. It is being used over the Russian Belgorod to neutralize the controlled cigarette butts that have again provoked a loud pop in one of the military depots that the Russian land is so rich in. So, yesterday afternoon, Belgorod priests with the icon of the Mother of God and the blessed fire from the Holy Sepulchre flew around the city of Stary Oskol in a military helicopter. Luckily no one smoked on board the helicopter and it landed safely. Unfortunately, in the late afternoon, a Ukrainian Wunderwaffe called Pop of Buddha again slammed one of the military warehouses, and over Belgorod itself, Russian air defense arranged a shadow fight. What scared the local population even more? Let me remind you that the stories of Nazi propagandists about the German miracle weapon continued until the last day of the war. And I'll give Belgorod residents a little advice: you guys would quit smoking.
Now smoke is rising behind me from a fire at an ammunition depot in the Belgorod region. A few hours earlier, residents of Belgorod, even in the very center of the city, heard a loud explosion. And after about 30–40 minutes another, now small but sensitive explosions are heard here.
Oh really? You finally began to pronounce the word explosion, not pop, so soon you will learn how to pronounce the word war. Then get used to the prospect of evacuation. On this issue, I can give a lot of advice: how to persuade relatives to leave, what things to take with you first of all, how to calm a small child in a bomb shelter and explain why you have to spend the night in the basement. Do not be shy. We are already experts in Ukraine. And commentators from Russia can again continue about the Donbass, Crimea and 8 years. Friends, I am very grateful to you for helping our project. Already in the next issues, I will show how together we help the armed forces of Ukraine. Well, now about the sacred date of the 9th of May, which is inevitably approaching the Russian Federation. At this holiday, Putin will be very lonely, although all of Eritrea and a little North Korea will fly to the parade. Those guys don't have many friends either, and there's a free banquet in the Kremlin. Well, maybe Ramzan Kadyrov, Angela Merkel and Armenian Prime Minister Pashinyan will also be called to Moscow, but the list of guests ends there. Tanks and soldiers for the parade will also be found, but will there be much joy at the parade? Things are even worse with slogans. The phrase, "we can repeat," is no longer relevant. They obviously cannot repeat it. Besides, Germany, freed from historical guilt, is waking up from a long sleep. In a few years, the Germans are able to restore the status of a powerful army to the Bundeswehr, the first among many in the European Union. Z и В сидели на трубе. Z спалили, В подбили, кто остался на трубе. Of course, they will come up with some kind of slogan, but only for use within the country. Because even Russia's closest neighbors are already shying away from the Russians and trying to buy a sawn-off shotgun and a couple of grenades on the black market. The other day Kazakhstan announced that it would not celebrate the 9th of May. Many in Russia considered this a betrayal, and the well-known propagandist Tigran Keosayan began to threaten the friendly state.
Cossacks, brothers, what kind of ingratitude? Have you really decided that Russia will evaporate somewhere? Emigrate to Mars? Or are you emigrating? I speak my personal opinion, a citizen of the Russian Federation, Tigran Keosayan. Look at Ukraine attentively. Think seriously. Well, I think that our responsible persons also need to evaluate and revise the level of relations. Because if you think that you can continue to be so smart-assed and you will not get anything for it, you are mistaken.
Потому что, дорогие мои, если вы считаете, что можно дальше быть такими хитрожопыми, и вам за это не будет ничего, вы ошибаетесь.
Residents of Kazakhstan answered
Жители
Tigran.
Казахстана дали
It turned
ответ.
out that they also have
Оказалось,
questions for
у них тоже
Russia.
есть вопросы к России.
Your Putin brought your country into chaos. And today we are talking about the time to return to our lands, which Russia once took from us. These are the Orenburg region, the Kurgan region, the Tyumen region, the Omsk region, the Astrakhan region. And you, Russian brothers who live in these regions, have time to jump on the train that is leaving. Russia is over, guys. Believe me, we Kazakhs tell you this. Yes, we will celebrate the Victory Day, but the Victory Day of Ukraine over Russia. And today, our brothers who live next door to us, this is Yakutia, Tuva, Khakassia, Tatarstan, Bashkortostan, it's time for you to understand that you are not on the way with Russia. This country is already over.
Это Татарстан, Башкортостан, это Закавказские, Кавказские республики. Вам тоже уже пора понять, что вам не по пути уже с Россией. Эту страну уже закончили.
Напомню,
Let me remind you that it was Vladimir Putin who opened the Pandora's box called "Let's reconsider the borders of neighboring states." He was asked very much not to do this, but he did not listen, and now this whole situation is becoming more and more unmanageable. I think that soon the Russian provinces will begin to seriously think about independent navigation and their own natural resources, which are enough to become a normal civilized country. About the 9th of May, of course, we will talk in much more detail, but this will be in the next episodes.
Про 9 мая, конечно же, мы поговорим гораздо более подробнее, но это будет в следующих выпусках України в вогні. Пам'ятайте про те, що
Remember that the Russian Federation will be destroyed. Victory will be ours. Glory to Ukraine.
And now I will show you where the attack on Belarus was being prepared from. And if 6 hours before the operation a preventive strike had not been delivered on the positions, 4 positions, I will now show the map, I brought it, they would have attacked our troops of Belarus and Russia, who were on the exercise. Therefore, we did not unleash this war, our conscience is clear.